Hello and welcome to the Intel Brief. Today is Monday, 27 October. I'm your host Daniel, and today we're going to talk about the EU is trying to end its dependency on China for rare earth minerals. The UK police said they wrongfully released a migrant sex offender, and the Kurdish rebel group the PKK says it's withdrawing forces from Turkey. So firstly, the European Union is working to end its reliance on rare earth elements from China, European Commissioner Ursula von der Leyen said on Saturday. China is a top producer and exporter of these rare earths. That's a weird way to say that. Which are vital for the production of smartphones, electronic vehicles, and high-tech military equipment. In April, China introduced new license requirements for rare earth exports, a move that sent shockwaves through global manufacturing sectors. This month, Beijing announced new curbs on rare earth exports as it seeks to leverage its dominance in the market amid an ongoing trade dispute with the United States. So what? I think everybody needs to get their supply chains in order when it comes to rare earth minerals. Being dependent on China for one of the most important parts of high-tech equipment is just outright dangerous, especially when it comes to military equipment. Because if you get in a conflict with China, they're obviously going to stop selling you the rare earth minerals that you need to make your weapons, which means you can't, and then you lose your war. It just seems kind of obvious at this point. So I don't understand how the EU and the US have become so reliant and haven't built their own refining capabilities. Because I think I talked about this the other week, but from what I understand, it isn't so much the extraction of the rare earths that's the issue. It's the processing that China kind of controls the entire market in. So, yeah, it's good to see that the EU is going to try and build their own supply chain because, if the US doesn't sort theirs out, they can supply them, but they can also be self-reliant when it comes to this. So, yeah, great move. Let's hope it actually works out. And next, British officials said that a European man was released from prison by mistake instead of being deported and has been arrested after a nearly 3-day manhunt. The man, believed to be 38, was sentenced to a 12-month imprisonment in September for 5 offences, including sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl that he committed shortly after arriving in England by a small boat. He was meant to be sent to an immigration detention centre to be deported when he was mistakenly freed from Chelmsford Prison on Friday. His arrest earlier this year triggered a wave of angry anti-migrant protests in London and other cities. So what? I just have no words. I kind of just included this because it's an insane story that I thought was worth mentioning. How the UK prison system is just releasing people by accident is fucking wild. I don't think I've ever heard of another country just accidentally releasing someone, especially someone who is, has been convicted of some pretty horrific offences and is due to be deported from the country. It's just further degrading trust in the system. Like it's just rookie errors. Wild. He has been arrested though, and hopefully now he will be deported and we can move on with our lives. But yeah, these problems aren't going away. And lastly, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, the militant group, said on Sunday that it is withdrawing all of its forces from Turkey to northern Iraq as part of a disarmament process. The group has waged an insurgency against Turkey for 4 decades, in which more than 40,000 people have been killed. Decided in May to lay down its arms after calls from its 76-year-old jailed leader. In a statement from Iraq, the PKK said that the withdrawal aimed to enable it to establish a free, democratic and brotherly life, and that it was part of its efforts to advance processes of disarmament and integration. It called on Ankara to take steps to facilitate the PKK's transition into a democratic politics by establishing laws on integration. So what? I mean, that last bit's the kicker to me, trying to get Turkey to allow them into politics, because that is highly unlikely and is kind of the problem that has led to this war for so long. Um, while I'm sure Turkey is absolutely relieved that this is all over and the PKK is no longer going to be conducting terrorist attacks, it's going to be interesting to see what actually happens. I don't think it's likely that Turkey will stop its counterterrorism operations in northern Iraq and Syria. So, how long can the PKK just pretend everything's fine and not go back to fighting against Turkey if Turkey keeps essentially trying to eliminate them from the region? But yeah, now that they've said they're laying down their weapons, I think Turkey will have less ability to attack them at will. I mean, it was already pretty frowned upon in the international community, but I think this may push it over the edge and kind of stop their pretty wild airstrikes that they conduct sometimes. But only time will tell here. It's kind of good to see a little bit of peace forming in the Middle East, but there's still much wider issues. So, yeah. Anyway, that's been the Intel Brief. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again tomorrow. See you.